Okay, coaches, and today with us is former head football coach in many schools at the college level and currently at Texas Christian University, Jerry Kill. Coach, thanks for coming on with us.
You bet. I'm happy to be on.
So, Coach, I'll start off with this: is why did you get into coaching?
Well, I think that is the deal. I grew up in a small town in Cheney, Kansas, and at that particular time, I was just trying to get off doing all the farm stuff and maybe just get to school somehow. And so I went to college, and I really didn't have I'm just going to go be a football coach. I just wanted a college degree because nobody in my family had it, and I was fortunate to finish my degree. And at that time, decided I was going to be a teacher and a high school teacher and coach. And so I got my first job at Midwest City High School in Oklahoma, where I taught biology and coached the linebackers. And I was back when Mike Gundy was a senior at Midwest City High School. So that's how old I'm getting, I guess.
Wow. So you started off at the high school level then?
Yes.
So well, I guess what caused you to make that jump from the high school to the college level?
Oh, I think I just, I was really kind of lucky is that, the coach that I had that coached me back in college at a place called Southwestern College in Kansas was Dennis Franchione. And Coach Franchione had been an assistant at K-State, came to Southwestern, and I played for him for 2 years. Then I went the high school route, and then when he got the head job at Pittsburgh State, he asked me to come join him and be a graduate assistant. And I think I was a graduate assistant for the whole total of about 1 month, and I still got graduate assistant money. It was $250 a month, and yeah, I'm on the road recruiting. So that was the end of my master's. Everybody, they got the master's. I got my master's for about an hour and 15 when he walked in class and told me I needed to get on the road.
So, there's a lot of coaches that'll watch this and probably wonder, what that might be high school coaches and want to make that jump to college. What advice would you have for that high school coach or that young coach that wants to make that jump to the college ranks?
Well, I think that, I was fortunate to be a head high school coach and also an assistant coach at the high school level and then go to the college level. But I've coached at every single level of football except the NFL. And, I think it's, what you're willing to give up, because you get into college football, and this day even more so, you give up a lot. And because of the recruiting rules and the way you can go about things, what you do, it's pretty nonstop all the time. And it's not like it was when I first got in it. And, your family's going to sacrifice. Everybody says they don't, they're going to. And, it's a lot of time, the recruiting on the road. I'm not discouraging anybody. It's just the fact of life. It's different. Uh, what I did like about high school coach, I always look back at it, is that I think you can still make a difference in a kid's life. I think you can change it when you're a high school coach at that once they get out of your hand, so to speak, and they move on, they're tougher and tougher to change, when they struggle. But we still save a lot too. Football is a game of saving lives. And so we're still a part of that. But I think I made my biggest impact maybe in high school football. Not that I regret not doing college, and I'm still doing it. But it's one of those things where I think you definitely have to have a wife that understands the time commitments away from home. And there's people want to say all they want, that everybody lives a balanced life. Well, I want to see that person so I could be that. You know, it's a life about sacrifices for what's the best of your family, and family is the most important thing to you. So you just have to know that when you look at college football and you see what people are making, and it makes you get, man, I got to get to that level. I need to do that, so forth. There's just many smart high school coaches or college coaches, to be honest with you. It's not that a person like me knows more than somebody else. It's just the fact that you get into it, the more the money's changed it, and the more money there is, the more time demands there are, and the more times you're away from home, and da da da. So it's a deal. It's a give and take, and you just got to make sure you have a wife that understands, you know, what you're getting into. Every time I, you know, got to interviewing coaches after a certain period of time, I always interviewed their wives when I was in college, because I want to make sure they understood.
Sure. So, you know, kind of going off that, you know, you mentioned how you interviewed their wives. What advice would you have for coaches as they're building their staff, if maybe they're just taking over a program?
Well, you know, if you do it at the high school level, which I've done, is always wanted to bring somebody in. And in high school, it's not like colleges. You know, you'd like to bring a couple people in a teaching position or wherever you
Sure.
could fit them to where they understood what you wanted. And then you have to go and, you know, then you need to try to find people that are willing to work and do what you want to do. You know, some high schools let you bring people, some don't, and you got to sell your program to the ones that are there. What you're doing works, but it's certainly, if I was advising somebody before I took a job, I don't know if I would take one unless I could take a couple people with me, and then I could go from there. Uh, at the college level, of course, it's easier because most of the time when you get the job, you're going to get to bring your own people in. And I was fortunate when I was finished in Minnesota due to my health situation, is that we had guys with me for 22 years, and we all came up from Division II football on, and you know, they were loyal to me. I was loyal to them, and they each had their strengths and weaknesses. And I think when you put a staff together, you know, you all can't think the same way. And I always got people that were better at certain skill sets than I was, to replace replace my weaknesses with their strengths. And then the number one thing when I was picking somebody, I wanted somebody that was going to be loyal, and you know, that you know, and they love kids, and but that loyalty one was darn important, and I had it for a long time. But the money in college football has made that loyalty thing a lot tougher, because as soon as somebody sees, and you know, hey, get paid an extra $100,000 here, they're gone. And then the tough thing that's happened in high school football is when I was coaching, everybody was in the building pretty much in high school. Now, you know, a lot of the coaches that are coached in high schools are not only some in the building, but some of them are outside the building, and then some then are all outside the building. So I think that makes it more difficult as a high school coach. You know, I still think it's important to have, you know, teachers that are in that school system that are actually there, and those kids can see every day. As many of those coaches can be in that arena is the best, in my opinion.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned your staff had been together for pretty much 20 plus years, but when you had to bring in somebody new because somebody either left or retired or so forth, did you have like a particular set questions to try to make sure they fit into with your coaching staff, or did that kind of just vary depending on the position and the time?
You know, you know, each move that we made, you know, there's like a couple of those that where you kept a couple people or you brought a couple people in. And I usually, from my standpoint, was always a trust factor. I felt like I coach people football, but I couldn't coach them people skills and things of that nature. So I pretty much stayed within my family, so to speak. Every once in a while, I would go outside that. I mean, I hired Jeff Phelps when I was at Northern Illinois, and Jeff's one of the best coaches I've ever hired. Didn't know Jeff very well, but he had a great wife. He had a great work ethic. He'd worked for Coach Novak, who I knew very well. I trusted. I interviewed him, and it took me about 30 minutes, and I go, I know this is the guy that, this guy's going to be, is going to fit what I want to do. And so I think when you have a philosophy and you've got a plan of what you want to be and who you want to be, it's easy to hire people, and you got to have some instinct on that too. And I'm fortunate that I worked in college football I'm still working in it, but as a head coach until my tenure ended in Minnesota due to my health situation, I never had fired a coach. Not very many people can say that.
No. So I get, you talk about your staff continuity, and I'm sure you guys face some challenges along the way. What advice do you have for coaches that may be taking over a program that was struggling before you arrived?
Well, that's the only ones I got to take over because that was the only ones I could get. But I would say, number one, you get a chance to take the program, and I'm kind of known as a guy that's built programs throughout my career. And I think that, the number one thing is making sure that you have a chance to win. And, I think that's tremendously important. But, and that comes down to the administration. You can't, no matter how good you think you are, that you have to have administrative support. If you don't, it ain't going to work. The second thing is usually when a program's broken, they haven't been winning, they don't have discipline in their program. So, automatically there's some issues there. So, you look at the academic part of it, and usually the academics aren't very good. The other part is the kids have probably had problems getting in trouble a lot. And if you're in high school, they're, maybe, when I went to high school, that they're not getting the players out. And, what do we need to do there to get the players out? But I think the key element of turning a program around is getting good people around you, because one person can't do it. And I think it all goes back to hiring good people, taking care of them, do whatever you can to keep those people. And you can keep that continuity on your staff, and you get your staff with your plan that you've incorporated, and those kids see that staff year in and year out. Makes a big difference on how they feel about things.
Makes sense. Let's see here. So how about this? What advice do you have for assistant coaches whose aspirations are to be make that jump from being an assistant to being a head football coach one day?
Most important thing, don't do it too fast, because if you do it too fast, you'll fail. Everybody's, whatever. I'll make some people mad by saying this, but all of a sudden, it's you think you're ready, and do you know offense? Do you know defense? Do you know how to recruit? In high school, your recruits better know how to recruit the hallways. Have you know anything about special teams? I mean, it's like buying a restaurant. You just go buy it. You don't know anything about how to run it. And, you haven't been back there and you never washed the dishes. All of a sudden you're going to get in the restaurant business. You better hire some great people around you to bail you out. So to be a head coach and be qualified to be a head coach is that you need to be able to be a good assistant, and you need to get in good program to be an assistant coach, so you can learn under the best people. And once you do that, you just keep your mouth shut, and everybody likes to go apply for every job in America. Just do your job and they'll come find you. But we got too many coaches that are too worried about getting the next job to doing the one they got. And then when they go get a head job, they're not ready for it. So do your job and be loyal to the guy in front of you. And then, you think that you're ready to go visit with that guy. And I've never seen anybody not ever help a guy be a head coach. That's kind of a goal of any head coach, to help one of his guys. But you can't know one side of the ball and think you're ready to be a head coach. You're going to hire just a defensive coordinator and all that. You better know something about it. And before I became a head coach, I'd been on the recruiting side of it. I'd been on offense. I'd been on defense. I'd been in promotions. I'd been in, you name it, I'd done it. And so I felt like I was prepared for it. And it could be at a young age, because some young people get the opportunity to do a lot of stuff early in their career. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, just because you coach linebackers for 2 years and you think you're ready to be a head coach, you're not ready to be a head coach.
Right. Well, who are some of those coaches that influenced you when you were younger, starting out?
Well, probably my high school coach.
Okay.
Ken Diskin, who's still alive. Coach Diskin's, I don't know, in his 80s. Still comes to game once a year, even as what I do now. Hard-nosed, tough. It's a different world back then. That's when they gave you salt tablets, and they didn't believe in water. And so now you get sued for that, and you don't drink enough water. So he was an old time guy, but he was a great technician, a great teacher of a lot of things. And then, there's no question that Dennis Franchione had a lot of influence on me because I played under him, then I coached under him, and he was a guy that's been very, very successful. Coached at TCU, where I'm at now, and New Mexico, and turned that program around. Was at Southwest Texas or Texas State, turned that program around. Was at Alabama, and then went to A&M. And so he's a guy that taught me a lot of different things, and that was influence, a strong influence about where I'm at. A guy named Chuck Broyles, who was at Pittsburgh State, the head coach there, who still might be the winningest Division II coach in the country. We won a national championship together when he was a head coach. But those guys were very influential. And then there's a ton of people. I'd encourage any coach that's young to go visit. Everybody goes to clinics, and clinics are good, but it's really, really good if you have a way to go in and visit with staffs. Even if it's another high school staff, or if you're a college staff. I tell our people all the time, you need to go find out from, so-and-so, they're throwing the ball better than anybody in the country. I want to know why. What do they do? And so I don't think you ever quit learning, and so forth. And so I think, you just pay attention to who's doing it the best, and you try to go learn from the best. So I've had a lot of people that, Bill Snyder at Kansas State, arguably one of the top 5 coaches that ever coached the game, just because of where he coached it and what he had to do. And Bill Snyder was a huge influence. Being me, I was from Kansas, and Bill is treating me good to this day, and I still hear it from Coach. And so I can keep going, but it's there's been a lot of people that have helped me get on my way. And I think a big thing is always listening. I think Lou Holt said, keep your, you got 2 ears and a mouth, and so that's why you need, to listen instead of talk all the time. I think there's a lot of truth to that. You always want to talk, but I was a person that wanted to listen and soak up all that football knowledge I could from all the people that I could get to. And, you know, I mean, if I wanted to try to get in and I wanted to meet a college coach or, you know, whatever I needed to do, I'd find a way to do it, you know. And that's how Gary and I hooked up together. You know, I was coming to TCU all the way back when Coach Franchione was coaching, and then Gary and I, you know, knew each other for 30 some odd years. But you know, we both had all kinds of different influences, and then you kind of become who you are.
Sure.
Coach, you mentioned earlier about taking over struggling or bad programs. I'm always curious to ask coaches this. How did you and your staff at those various places instill the culture and kind of lay the foundation for changes that you wanted to make?
Well, I went in the first day, I guess, just do the last one first. You know, when I went to Minnesota, I walked in and I had a plan, and this is what we're going to do. I said, these are our goals, or, you know, or this is, you know, our path to being successful. You know, this is how we're going to get there. And from day one, they got the message. And then, you know, and then you have to set in stone what you believe in that helps you win. And you got to stick to it. And you know, changing a culture is hard to do. You know, certainly losing culture. Oh, we're going to lose, da, da, da. And you say, no, this is what you do. I guarantee you, you know, we'll win. But it's you got to be different. You got to be uncommon to win. Tony Dungy talked about that. But, you know, it's a deal where you inherit a bad locker room. I always say that. And you've got to get that locker room turned. So you put the standards up for the people in that locker room now, and that's your first recruiting class. You got to get them sold on what you're doing. The ones you sell, they'll stay and get rewarded. The ones that can't handle it, they need to go, or they'll weed themselves out because they can't handle the standard. And so if they can't handle the standard, they move on, and then you recruit. The next class comes in, and they're around better people and people that believe in you, and then the next class comes in, and the next class, and all of a sudden you turn the culture. You know, if you're in high school, it's the same way. You get a job there, and you go in, and at Webb City High School, you know, we were 25-1 when I was there, and walked in, didn't do any different than I did at Pittsburgh State. Or is that you walk in and you set the standard, and this is who we're going to be. This is what we want to accomplish, and this is how we're going to get there. And you do what I tell you, it'll work. If you don't, you'll struggle. You won't be able to make it. But you laid the plan out front of them. You can't come in and not have a plan and then try to figure it out as you go. You got to come hit the road running and say, this is how we're going to do it. And, you know, and this is what we're going to do. And it doesn't have to be kids ain't going to listen to a 25-page book or something like that. It's got to be pretty simple. I could put it on 2 pages, you know, and say, this is where it's at. This is what we're going to do. And, you know, and so it's a deal where, you know, pretty much that's what we've done.
Okay. Let's see here. You know, so looking back over your career and, you know, the turnaround you did at various stops, what would you say is probably the number one thing your staff did the best as far when they were turning around a program? What's that one aspect you guys really did well?
We recruited to the system. We recruited the people that, you know, we weren't going to beat the Ohio States of the world and some of those people in recruiting. I never was asked, well, this guy a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. We recruited to the system. We recruited to who we were going to be. And we evaluated from film what we wanted and what we needed. Bill Belichick does that in the NFL as good as anybody. You know, now he had Brady at quarterback, or did have, but still he recruited to the system that fit that system. And I think that our staff did a great job of recruiting people that could handle me as a head coach. They knew my discipline and what I stood for, and that would fit in to how we did things. And it may not be always the most talented guy for another program, but it was the most talented for us. And so we had to get those kids that we were going to do, we had to get those play hard, tough nosed kids and sell them on, on what we were doing. And some kids couldn't play for me and some could. And I think what I mean by that is that we had the phrase, we're going to do it one more. We're going to do it better. We're going to work. We're going to do this one, a little bit better. And I got that off of Navy SEALs. But it's one of those things where, we knew we had to be different because we didn't have the same, facilities and flash and all that stuff that everybody else did. So we recruited off relationships with people that we knew and kids that fit in what we do. And it's amazing how many guys like that we had. Jordan Lynch that was with me at Northern Illinois. He asked him what star he was, I guess, when he's up for the Heisman. He said, I don't even know if I had a star. Jimmy Ward's started safety for the 49ers, and he played for me at Northern, and he had, I think they said he had a 2-star. So I never figured out who's ranking all them stars. See, so I just figured that we'd figure out what star we needed for what we did.
Well,
All right, Coach. Kind of to follow up on his question, I mean, that's kind of what you and your staff did best. Like, reflecting on your career so far, like, what are you the most proud of? Like, when you look back at everything, like, what are you? I mean, like, that's kind of like the highlight of, or pinpoint, or you're most proud of.
Players, kids. And I'm proud of the kids and the players that I've coached a lot of them over 36, 38 years through that time, and it's the players. The players saved my life in the game of football when I had a very difficult situation a couple different times. But it was a relationship with the players, the way the players, it's a kid's game. Coaches don't win any games, players do. And it's about the kids, it's about the players. And when you truly find out if you're worth a damn as a coach is when you look down the road about 10 years and what those kids are doing. And that's what I like seeing, and some of the kids that were the biggest pains in my butt are some of the most successful people that I've ever coached. But I'd like to, they drove me nuts. And they'll call me and I said, yeah, I know. I said, you're making all that money and you're the biggest pain in the ass I ever coached in my life. But it's a deal where I think from a coaching standpoint, I could go to games and I've been a part of, great football games, beating Michigan at their place, different things like that. But, that's just this is a trophy or something on the wall. If you're coaching, you should be coaching because there's two types of coaches. One's that coach because of the players, and then there's other coaches that coach because they're in it for themselves and their egos, and they're coaching more for who they are and they want to be out in front of everything. And then there's coaches that truly just want to coach because of the players. And high school coaches, that's what they do. Most people in high school don't get paid anything. That's why I said they got high school coaches. They got to love the game. They got to love kids because they're not getting paid $2.5 million. And the teachers and the high school coaches. And if I got a complaint, I got a lot of complaints about a lot of things. But I don't know how. A guy. I was both of them, and. We want our kids to get better in high school, and we want to do this and that. And we got high school teachers that are making $40,000 a year, and we got guys that are like myself that even in my position now making 3 times that, and I'm not even a head coach. I'm, an analyst more or less. So, we got to get that straightened out because, the kids, from 14 to 18 right now, they need every good adult, good person, and the game of football teaches you a lot of good things.
So, so as we're sitting here, it's June 14th. Right now, there's a lot going on in America. We have the COVID stuff. We have the different, how do I put this, political things going on. I guess my question is this, is as there's all these, states of uncertainty and unrest and uncharted territory, what's your advice for high school coaches as they may starting to work out with their teams? And, what message would you give your team if you were a high school coach with all this stuff going on right now in the world?
Number one thing I'd tell them, listen. That's the words of advice that I would tell the coaches, listen. And I told them that 5, 10, 15, but as years go by, times change, things happen, and, you have to listen more and more to the young people right now than you ever have in your life. And so listen and learn and communicate and care. And that's what I'd tell them.
Thanks, Coach. Well, Coach Kill, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us. I really do. And I know that the coaches in Michigan miss you, but we really do appreciate it. So, thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and I would tell you that my respect, and it always will go back. And I don't know how, I probably never will retire. They're always saying I'm retiring, and I find a way to fight back. But I still think I'll end my career doing something, probably finishing up being a high school coach, just helping somebody out. I don't want to go to no meetings though, but I love high school coaches. That's where I started. I really haven't changed that much. That's why people go, well, this guy, man, he's really smart. He's in college football. Well, if you look at my principles, things I do, I really haven't changed that much. So somebody in high school wants to be a college coach, you can do it. If I made it, anybody can. But, be the big time's where you're at. That's the way you got to look at it. The big time's where you're at. And I will tell you that high school football, it's the big time, and we need big time coaches in that arena right now. And those kids need you more than ever. And they're just looking for somebody to care.
Thank you, Coach. Take care.
Thank you, Coach. Take care.
Stay safe.
Bye.